So you really needed to be on video, hey? Okay. There you go. You're famous now. Hello everyone, my name is Bedani and today I'm going to speak to you a little bit about the upcoming Class Gauntlet event presented by Shopify Rebellion and organized, as you all may know, by Zizran, so shout out to him. And I'll speak a little bit about a few themes around this Class Gauntlet, so I'll tell you what exactly it is, what you can aim at in this event as a regular player, and what I mean by regular player is of course someone who can't play 12 or 16 hours a day, as some of the more dedicated streamers certainly will. I'll bring you some basic tips and suggestions about how to approach the event as someone who played the events organized like this before. And I'll even give you some selected builds that are gauntlet ready so that you can hope to achieve your objectives in a fairly efficient manner and without dying too much, hopefully. So without further ado, let's look at the event. So what is the Class Gauntlet event? This event will start on March 13th, in my particular case at 3 p.m. In my time zone, but you can check the link in Zizran's webpage to check how long it will take until it starts, and it will show up with your particular time zone so that you can start right as it begins. This event consists in a private league where every difficulty mod available will be turned on, so this includes more projectiles coming from the mobs, more damage as every element, more attack and cast speed, and even reducing your initial resistances by 20% of each. So obviously it will be extremely rippy, particularly difficult to level through, so even the leveling process to which you might be used already as a player that plays a lot of PoE, the leveling is super difficult. Sometimes you'll just get wrecked and there's nothing you can do about it, but that's kind of the appeal of the event, in changing up leveling and making it so incredibly difficult, where every act you get through is an achievement and something that you can look forward to. What can you aim at as a regular player, as someone who will be able to maybe play a little bit more in the weekend, in Saturday, on Sunday, but then during the week can like put maybe an hour, maybe two a day, and won't be able to play any more than that? Obviously, I'll tell you right now and be honest, you will not be competing for these prize pool percentages. You won't be competing for top Scion, top Witch, or for a top 5 placement overall, because Lighty will probably win all of them, if you are aware of who he is. But you can reach for these prizes. These rewards are completely random as long as you reach a threshold minimum level. Now, even if you die after you reach the level, you will be a potential winner for one of these prizes. So you have a ton of MTXs, even some physical prizes, which very few of us will be lucky enough to have. But this is amazing. Like, you'll have a ton of fun in the event, and you can even get something for it, which is anything you can wish for as a regular player who isn't usually, of course, in the fight for top 10, top 5, or top of a class. So I would say a regular player with a bit of experience, playing carefully and following some of the tips I'll be giving in a few seconds, I think they can perfectly reach maps. I think they can reach level 90. As long as you have some experience, as you know what to look out for. So who knows, maybe you can get an armor pack and be super happy about your free MTX. But to start thinking about reaching level 90, let's talk a little bit about some of the specific things you should try to do, and for that we'll open Path of Exile. So here we are. Some things you should pick up right away is that the usual experience of just rushing through early zones as fast as you can, and even being under-leveled sometimes, that's not what you should aim for in this event. You should look at it a lot more as a roguelike game or a Dark Souls kind of game, with the added incentive that if you die, you start again. So, because of course the event is hardcore. So you should always try to farm as much as you can, particularly in the more easy zones like Submerged Passage in Act 1 or the prison, and farm them up, do the rituals because they are super good early game in looking for things like Wanderlusts, like Gold Rims, like Tabulas, and you can pretty easily farm a couple of those, so it will make the leveling a lot easier from then on forward. Like, don't be ashamed to reach Merveil at level 15, 16, 17. That's perfectly fine. It's way better to reach it way over level than to die in it. Something that you should focus on from the early game as well, and using Merveil as an example, since most of Merveil's damage is cold damage, you should try as much as possible to cap your cold resistance even during Act 1. By using rituals, by using essences that you find, and equip as much cold resistance as possible, because that will really help with the encounter. So if you join that with getting some damage, like if you're a melee build, you'll probably get a good axe from a ritual, or if you're not a melee build, a spellcaster for example, you can probably just craft your lightning damage to spells, wands, and it will trivialize the first boss. So really focus on farming up and building up to each of the act's bosses, because that will make the experience far better than just rushing through and endlessly dying. Like I tried in former events, Gauntlet events, doing just rushing to the bosses, getting there as fast as possible, barely farming at all, and you can easily die 3, 4, 5 times on your way to Merveil if you try to do this. Just focus on doing one good run, one good build, where you can at least have a way higher chance of surviving that you would if you just rush through the content. Something in particular that people might not be aware of if they never play the Gauntlet event is that Weaver is the rippiest part of your run. Like, it's... if you get through Weaver, you'll probably get like a couple acts of calmer gameplay, because she can definitely easily one-shot you. So try to get a decoy totem to help you out. Try to stay melee to her, because she will launch a projectile that, when multiplied with multiple projectiles, will just bump you. It doesn't matter how much you farm, how much you get resists, how much HP you have, it will one-shot you. It's way too much damage. So just try to get close to her, try to get through it. If you get through it, you'll probably have free pass through Act 3, probably Act 4, before you'll ever have as much difficulty as you had with her. Another important big tip is that you really should practice a little bit for the event. There are a lot of private leagues that you can access through the PoE Racing Discords, or even through some of your favorite streamers, which pretty much are all practicing for the event right now. So get into one of those leagues, get a feel for how hard it is at the start, and try to get through it so that you can feel that level of difficulty, get used to it, and not get intimidated by the difficulties that will be ahead in your journey to level 90, hopefully. Something important as well is that you should really focus on using stuff that you're used to. So if you usually start the league with a spellcaster, then you probably should look for spellcasting builds that you know how to level usually, that you know where your strong points and weak points are, so that you can play with it in a comfortable area, because there's so much that will be uncomfortable in a gauntlet with the amount of damage you're taking, with everything being so rippy, that you should at least be playing a playstyle that you can get through with your eyes closed. And lastly, but probably the most important, just have some plain old fun with it. It will be a super cool event. There will be so many people trying it out. All of your favorite streamers will probably be on it. So watch your favorite streamer while you're playing, have fun with your friends, invite them in as well, and enjoy something so different from the usual Path of Exile experience, because it's only a 1 week event, and we only see this once every 3 or 4 months, so take as much advantage of the opportunity as you can. So I gathered a few builds that are super strong for this event, and hopefully they will fit a little bit into your playstyle. But I'll also help you beforehand in looking for some of these builds that you want to play and see if they are viable for the event or not. What I would suggest is you go to PoE Ninja, you access builds, you search for solo self-found ritual hardcore, and in the time machine you select something like end of week 1 or maybe even day 5. And what you'll get is a snapshot from the Ritual Hardcore Solo Self-Found League after the 6 first days. So you can look through it, look what was the most popular at the time, and you'll easily be able to see, for example, if you wanted to try and play totems. You can go here, look for totems, and search what the most used totem builds were. You can see Explosive Arrow was something, Toxic Rain, Ancestral Warchief was obviously the most popular of these builds. So even if in the most usual builds you don't find something that you would enjoy, you can also use tools like PoE Ninja to look for your own flavor. With that said, let's look at some of the builds that I collected for you guys. First of all, let's look at Champion, which you can build either as Earthquake or Earth Shatter. And the main thing about Champion is that you have absolutely permanent Fortify from your Ascendancy, also a good bunch of Fortify effect. You get 10% from the minor nodes, plus a few extra effects like Stun Immunity here and Attack Speed. And then you get these Fortify effect nodes from the tree. And Fortify, as you might know, is just generic less damage taken from it. So having Fortify all the time, having a lot of Fortify effect on top of it, will make you super tanky passively. You won't need to do anything to get this effect. So that's the kind of tankiness that you're really looking for in a Rippy event like this. This build can also get Elemental Ailment Immunity from a combination of having crafts on your items and potentially getting Crystal Skin on your amulet as an anointment. This would probably save you one item with Avoid Element Ailments, but you can also just get it fully from your items, like this guy did, with body armor, helmet, gloves, and boots. It also stacks a ton of armor on the character, so it will make you pretty much immune to most physical hits. And by most physical hits, I mean, of course, a lot of small physical hits at the same time, which is what you're most worried about in terms of physical. And that's pretty much Champion in a nutshell. As I said, either Earth Shatter or Earthquake. You stack Warcries and you make one big boom that will, combined with Master of Metal and Impale effect from the tree, make a ton of damage, even on an extremely tanky build like this. You can see in this example, this guy has 8,000 life on top of all the layers of defense I mentioned before. Other builds that you can look at are the Necro builds with stuff like Detonate Dead or Archmage Cremation. Detonate Dead might probably be the single best build for this gauntlet right now, because it is so absurdly tanky. It stacks Mind Over Matter and mana effects with a lot of block. You can probably reach block cap or close to it without glancing blows, or you can make an adaptation with glancing blows where you take less block chance because it will get kept anyway. You will then get Mistress of Sacrifice with your Bone Offering, just getting your block chance even higher. And you can join that up with an incredible amount of life, because you have so much inherent damage from the skill itself and from using particular specters in the game which have ginormous amounts of HP, which, if you don't know, scales your detonate damage. This build has so much inherent damage in itself that it can get every kind of tankiness in the book and still have super respectable DPS on bosses. Kill Awakener 8, kill all the Guardians, no problem at all. Then you also have Gladiator builds, which are also melee. You can do stuff like Lacerate, like Earthquake, but instead of focusing on stuff like Fortify, like you do in the Duelist build, in the Champion build, here you focus on block chance, on spell block, you focus on bleed, and you stack your damage from bleed effects, from damage over time. So the concept changes a little bit in terms of where your damage comes from, but it's still super, super strong, just a little bit different on where you get the damage from. Something I should also mention about these block cap builds is that you should always look for a shield like this, where you can recover 5% of life when you block, which makes it an incredible amount of recovery just from blocking hits. So not only are you avoiding damage, you're also regenning from it, which makes it incredibly powerful, incredibly tanky during maps. And just because I would be remiss not to mention Bladeblast, Bladefall, I also got one example of the build, which is the Chieftain example. This is an 8000 HP build with a little bit of block, a little bit of spell block, a ton of damage, a ton of regen from the Chieftain Ascendancy, and incredible amounts of damage from Bladeblast, Bladefall itself. This build is a little bit more of a combo build, since you need to do 2 spells most of the time, even though Bladefall does clear most of the map. You will need Bladeblast for the most tanky tanky mobs, and then obviously for bosses you'll need to combine the 2 skills. So it's a little bit more hectic, but it's also a little bit more of an active playstyle which people might enjoy. There are a lot of variations of Bladeblast, Bladefall. There are obviously the poison varieties that you can do with Assassin, for example, or even Elementalist or Inquisitor versions of the build, which focus on elemental damage and critical chance. But I present this Bladefall version. You will be able to find all these links in the description. I'll leave all of the POBs, all the links about the event, and that's pretty much it from my part. I will be streaming this weekend while playing this event. I'll even stream probably tonight while practicing for it a little bit. So please follow me on at the real Bedani on Twitter, or at BedaniTTV on Twitch, which is where I stream, of course. Do like this video and subscribe to appease to the YouTube algorithm gods. And if you do enjoy some Path of Exile content, it will be coming thick and fast over the next few weeks, and of course in preparation for the upcoming league, which is only 1 month away already. So thank you for watching. Ciao.